All right, people of M cubed. Of course, I am Schmook. Now, I'm happy that we're doing this. I thought last week's stream was a lot of fun. Um, Hope to get some more guys in here real shortly. Eventually, I think the plan ultimately will be to have at least a guest or two on each of these. Of course, for now, it's fine with just me talking to you guys about all things comic book related in the terms of movies or TV shows even. Um, but of course, we're sticking with the theme of last week where we talked about X-Men. Where I want to go into that a bit more with the new trilogy, well, quadrilogy actually. Even though I don't like Dark Phoenix, I've seen it one time, so I probably won't even talk about it because I actually really enjoy the three movies of the First Class trilogy. Um, I think I think Matthew Vaughn as well as Bryan Singer did a great job with the trilogy. I still think Matthew Vaughn probably should have done the whole thing, but Bryan Singer gave us one of the best comic book movies of all time, Days of Futures Past. In my humble opinion, it is one of my personal favorites. I believe it's in my top 10. Like, I want to do an eventual like top like rating all my favorite superhero movies eventually. Of course, we're gonna do that with the MCU. That'll be one of our streams at one point. Uh, Same with the DC EU, and then yeah. But again, at the end of each of these streams, I'm gonna rank the ones in the trilogy at least. But yeah, I see that we have someone in here. Say hey, say hey. It's good to have you. I hope it's probably Harris or Sci-Fi. I know they're always here. Um, but if you're someone new, say hey. But ultimately, this is a trilogy that I believe hits home for a lot of people. I think it's nice to get one with the. It starts off with First Class, right, which I think is just a masterful comic book movie in general. Um, I just like seeing these characters. Oh, Mark, what's up, buddy? It's good to have you back. I hope you're having a good day, my man. Oh yeah, it's all good. It's all good, Harris. It's all good. I don't think I'll be able to be on here too long either, but I just want to have a nice little stream to discuss these films a bit because I gotta make dinner. But I'll be in here for a little while. But yeah, if you got other stuff to do, no biggies, my guy. But um, but yeah, First Class. It's a first class film in my humble opinion. Like I was like one, of course, you get it's a lot like one of the I believe it's the first scene of the original X-Men movie. It's one of the first scenes of the original X-Men movie where you get Magneto's like origin, right? It obviously dives way deeper into it with this movie where you have Kevin Bacon's character, who of course was like a basically a Nazi of some sort, who was at the Holocaust camps with Magneto, right? Door dashing, huh? Well, hey, after you can come and listen while you're door dashing. But hey, that's a good way to listen to streams and be able to, talk to different folks. My plan's to DoorDash a little bit more here too, just to make a little bit extra cheddar cheese. I can't get this cap on, man. I'm fumbling over here. But anyway, so what's nice about this, where we get the Last Stand, obviously Fox is like, okay, it's been a little bit of time. We can reboot this, but not fully reboot it because we can just do a movie with the younger versions of Charles and Magneto, right? Charles and Eric, which I really love because one, like you have Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen, and they cast remarkable people to play their younger selves. Where you have James McAvoy and you have Michael Fassbender, who I think are two of the best actors of our generation, of this generation, I should say. And they both play. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'll always be listening to YouTube because when I'm cooking at work, I'm just constantly listening to like either Denim Nerds or someone like that, right? But yeah, again, so you get Michael Fassbender, who I do believe is one of the best actors working. He has to start taking more of an approach like a Leonardo DiCaprio or someone where he should probably pick better projects because like he's a master class actor, right? But he'll pick roles where he is like they're just bad movies, but this was his role of his lifetime, playing this version of this character of Magneto, right? I think he is by far the best part of this trilogy because again, I don't count Dark Phoenix. It's a movie that's like had so many issues. I thought it had like okay moments overall, but I'm just not going to count it. Like if I'm going to rank all of these, that's obviously at the bottom. I don't even want to talk about it. But of course, Fassbender's good in that. Like, and same with James McAvoy. Again, I think they carry this side of the. They carry these films like in a way how uh, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen carried their respected trilogy as well, right? But of course, you have great side characters that make it a lot of fun to watch. Like I think, of course, Nicholas Hoult playing Hank McCoy, playing Beast is an awesome casting because I like one Beast, one of my favorites, but he's able to capture that like oh he's a nerd side of Beast, but he can still be a badass. That's what I really like about him. Of course, they made Jennifer Lawrence. I really loved her in First Class, and she was solid in Days of Future Past, but you can tell that she was checked out in Apocalypse. That's the only thing that I don't love about Apocalypse because I think it's a pretty good movie outside of some shaky CGI. But like besides her, I think one the best part about Apocalypse is, of course, I want to talk about these more linearly, but I mean I'm just talking about the cast in general. Um, I think Matt Fassbender brings one of his best performances in Apocalypse when his daughter dies, right? Like he just breaks down, he just murks so many people. I'm like, holy shit. Um, Ultimately, Apocalypse, I think it's just criminally underrated. I think it had really good action sequences, good cast. I like seeing the young of X Men, where you get Scott, you get Jean, uh, you get Storm, which is cool. Right, it was cool to get to that point where we are getting introduced to these characters. You get a nice little Hugh Jackman Wolverine cameo, just like in First Class, where of course we know in Days of Futures Past, Hugh Jackman's the main character of that movie, which I love because Days of Future Past is a remarkable film, and I love that it's him in between Eric and Charles, which I think's great. Um, that's we have three masterful actors, and you still have Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart in that movie. Days of Future Past is a film that I cannot stop talking about enough. Uh, it's just it's something about it, just that time period where it feels very spy espionage in a way. It also feels it's a time travel movie, which I think are always fun. I'm a sucker for time travel films, you know, but uh, but Apocalypse again. Apocalypse is not my favorite one in this trilogy. But again, I do think it's underrated. I think you have a lot of great moments. I think the ending scene is sick. We have like all these characters wearing like classic costumes. Like I think Scott's, like Cyclops' costume is remarkable. I think Storm's looks sick. Quicksilver looks badass. Well, that's what's nice about Apocalypse. You get a lot more Quicksilver time, like Evan Peters' Quicksilver. He's the best part of that movie besides Magneto. Of course, the downfalls of that movie are like, again, you get Jennifer Lawrence not acting well, and then Oscar Isaac playing Apocalypse. Great casting. Great casting. I just personally think they could have done a lot better with one, how he looked, and they could have made him a little more menacing and less like, oh, it's the end of the world, blah blah blah. Like they could have done the Apocalypse storyline of X-Men a lot better, a lot better. But overall, I don't think it's a bad movie. I remember seeing it in theaters. I'm like, huh, people are shitting on this movie. I thought it was okay. I thought it was fine. I felt the same way after seeing Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's a movie I unapologetically love, but of course we'll get there eventually. Uh, but I don't know. I think it kind of comes to the point where it's like when you see a Dark Phoenix or like yeah, I'll say Dark Phoenix. You can't tell me that Apocalypse is a bad movie when you watch something like that. Where Apocalypse is like, okay, at least this is fun. This is a fun superhero movie with good acting. Where Dark Phoenix is like, none of these guys want to be here. They're all just fulfilling. They're just fulfilling their contract at that point. Yeah, Days of Future Past. I agree. I think that The first Deadpool and Logan are, to me, my favorites, my absolute favorites out of the X-Men Fox universe. Um, and that's closely followed by First Class and maybe X2. I might like Deadpool 2 more than X2, but again, I didn't grow up with the original X-Men trilogy. I don't have like a profound love for it. I think they're good movies. Again, I think Last Stand is underrated too. Like a lot of these movies that came out like in the early 2000s, like people will dog on them. Like same with like Spider-Man 3. I still think Amazing Spider-Man 2 gets a bad rap, but like you look at those movies, you look at the acting in those movies. Yeah, the story is sometimes okay and not that great, but compared to like again like Ant-Man Quantumania, for example, which is a very expensive film and it looks like a green screen the whole time, that's a problem. That's a big problem. And yeah, you get some good performances in there. I think Paul Rudd and Jonathan Majors both do a masterful job. I just don't think the story makes sense. You think both? Yeah, I mean, again, I like Deadpool 2 a lot. At times, I think it's better than 1. But I think I like Days of Future Past and Logan more than both the Deadpool movies. But I still think Deadpool, that franchise is masterful, and I think it's going to be one of the best superhero movie trilogies of all time once we get Deadpool 3, especially with you having Hugh Jackman in there and then being a part of the MCU. Yeah, that movie's going to slap, and that's going to make it arguably the best superhero movie trilogy of all time. Um, at least from a fun comic book standpoint. Maybe it won't be on like the grand scale of like a Dark Knight trilogy. I'm not going to say that, but it will hit. It will hit. I'm excited to talk about Deadpool eventually. I think we're going to stick on this train where we might do either the Wolverine trilogy, talk about each of those movies next week, or Deadpool. I'm cool just going through this whole franchise first. So I think I like the X-Men, like the Fox universe shit a lot, right? Because then I'll probably talk about Tim Story Fantastic Four, but I'm kind of wanting to save that for. I want to save that for whenever we eventually get the cast announced, which I believe is going to happen at D23 whenever that's happening. It sucks that there's a writer strike going on, but they understand that they have to say stuff to get people amped in some way and still have faith in the product because otherwise it's just not going to exist anymore. So I think they're going to go pretty big at D23 about like, Deadpool 3 stuff. They'll probably show some footage as well as just casting in general and then what's in the slate for the MCU. But again, we'll get back on this. So First Class is a movie it was a movie I didn't like. It's what got me into the X-Men actually quite a bit. Because again, I was born in '98, so the X-Men animated show, I didn't really watch that. I was more like the animated Spider-Man show watcher. Spider-Man's my favorite superhero of all time, and I was always more of like a Sam Raimi Spider-Man person than the X-Men. So I think I just grew up liking Spider-Man more than the X-Men. But I remember it was like probably it was probably 6th or 7th grade, maybe 5th grade. I gotta look at the year. But that's when First Class came out for me. And I remember my buddy's like, "You want to go see this movie?" I'm like, yeah. He's like, "Yeah, my mom will take us. Let's go." I'm like, okay. And I go, and I remember just like leaving that movie. I'm like, that movie fucking slapped, and it makes me really have a great appreciation for the older movies because one, you get to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine in there. Like this is what's leading up into like the Patrick Stewart and McKellen stuff. So I rewatched those movies and I'm like, okay, these are good. Especially X2. So X2 is definitely in my higher echelon of comic book rankings. Eventually, I can't wait for that stream where I just talk about everything and rank them. That'll take a lot of preparation, though, of course. But I look forward to that. I think a lot of you guys will very much so enjoy that. Because again, it's my favorite thing there is. That's why I'm happy I do this show every Monday because like anything comic book related is my favorite piece of like fiction. Like I love like The Walking Dead, for example. That's based on a comic book. I love Invincible. I love The Boys. Yeah, it doesn't just have to be like MCU or DC stuff. Like I think I plan on I'll probably do like Walking Dead talks here because the Daryl Dixon show just that just started here last night. And me and my girlfriend are rewatching it. all. So I'm excited to watch the whole 11 seasons of The Walking Dead and then watch Dead City and Daryl Dixon. Then I think I want to have like a big live stream just to talk about one each season, which we could potentially split into different videos. But just give a grand overview of that. But again, we'll go back to First Class because that's what the stream is. But I just want to, put some put that out there a little bit just for the future, especially for whoever likes The Walking Dead. Because it's a good time to be a fan, honestly. Like Daryl coming out, Dead City just finished up. We're getting the Rick and Michonne show sometime next year. So we'll talk about First Class here. So I can gotta quench the thirst. But let's say First Class. I think it's pretty awesome to see Kevin Bacon in like a villain role because he's always been like a little teen heartthrob type of guy. I like that he wears the helmet that Magneto eventually gets to stop Charles from reading his mind. I love seeing Emma Frost in there. I like seeing, of course, you have I can't remember Scott's brother's name, but I really like his character. Okay. So again, I might as well watch the animated series if you highly recommend. I think it'll probably get me into like become way more of an X-Men fan. I've enjoyed the characters like throughout any type of culture, like pop culture, but that's just one show I've never watched. But again, like I watched the Spider-Man one. If it's in that similar fashion, that might be something I'm really into. But yeah, man, that was definitely that was definitely for your time. I I've heard nothing but good things, especially with the new show coming out on Disney Plus eventually. So maybe I'll give it a watch. Maybe it'll be something I watch before I go to bed each night. Yeah, I need a new show because if the girl falls asleep before I do, then I will. I usually turn on something on the watch before I pass out, but sometimes I pass out too beforehand. But anyway. Yeah, if you highly recommend, I'm definitely gonna go to watch the theme song. I know the theme song's badass. But like they shredded that theme song. Same with the animated Spider-Man, where you have freaking Aerosmith doing the doing that theme, which is badass. But yeah, but I'm sure it would give me a greater appreciation for a lot of the smaller characters, not even small characters, just like characters that like I've never like loved. Like a Rogue. Like my only real is reading some comics because like I'm not the biggest like comic reader outside of like The Walking Dead and like specific comic arcs for Marvel and stuff. But I do want to get really more into reading just a bunch of comics because I know that's the source material, right? Um, hmm. Yeah, that's right. And I know Jubilee was in Apocalypse, and she didn't have that big a role in that either. So it's kind of wild. She was only in that movie. I mean, she was barely in that movie. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's where they had a Jubilee cut of some sort, just like how Days of Futures Past they had a Rogue cut. I've seen the Rogue cut. It's not bad. I still think it's necessary, but it's cool to get Rogue in there. I still think it's weird that um, Kitty Pryde is the one who transfers Logan back in time instead of Rogue. Because I'm pretty sure it was Rogue in the comic. I'm trying to remember. I know it's Days of Future Past is a huge comic, but I haven't read it in a while. But I'm pretty positive it was Rogue. So I don't know. That might have just been, they just might have had an issue with Anna Paquin at the time. Yeah. I guess ultimately, I just know the biggest takeaways for me is that like I just think these movies are just they're just better made than the original trilogy. Yeah, it was a different time. The first one was just cool for what it was, like to have like a ensemble superhero team together on the big screen for the first time. So I know that was a big one. X Men's always been like one of Marvel's biggest properties. Um, so I know it did well. X2 was like just a really good movie with Nightcrawler. I love seeing Nightcrawler in Apocalypse. I thought they had casted him pretty well. And I thought, again, I just think it was cool getting all those types of characters like Nightcrawler, Scott, Jean, Jubilee, Storm, just all younger. And you see that X Men team form. Dark Phoenix does a terrible job of continuing that, but I think they casted everyone pretty damn well too. Yeah, no, I mean, Mark, I'm with you there, man. Like, it's mostly like the graphic novels that I read, unless it's The Walking Dead, where I would read that issue to issue, because otherwise, it's just so much. There's so much to read. But of course, I've read like Civil War, Days of Future Past, Dark Knight Returns. But again, the graphic novels is what hits me hard because it's like it's okay. That's a story in one like book instead of like issue, 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 issue. Um, but I do want to get into some of like the main stuff. Like I want to read the Secret Wars like the second Secret Wars, where I believe that's where it deals with Battle World. Because I'm pretty sure that's what the MCU is trying to adapt and like of course adapt like they adapt Civil War, but I know it's going to be somewhat similar. They just might not have Doctor Doom, which is kind of a damn shame. Like, I know about these stories and whatnot, but I do want to read this stuff because I know it sounds so badass. Whenever I hear uh Denim Nerds talk about it, for example. Like I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty sick, you know. Um, let's see. Well, Mark, I guess what's since you're in here, I'm gonna ask you personally. What is your favorite X-Men movie in general? And then what's your favorite of the original trilogy and then the First Class trilogy? And until you answer that, I might as well just say again, I'm gonna say my favorite out of each uh, trilogy or saga or whatever. Where I like X2 best from the original. I like Days of Future Past best in this one. And then I like Deadpool 1 over Deadpool 2, just barely. I think Deadpool 2 hits that more nerd. Uh, it hits the nerdiness of me, like where Deadpool 1 I think is a better movie. But Deadpool 2 has like really good action. You get Juggernaut in there. You have Cable, who I love. But I just think one was just a much better, more well-rounded story. It was just written better, and like it didn't have a big budget, and they were able to tell an awesome story there. And it's a love story, you gotta love those. And then Logan's obviously my favorite of the Wolverine trilogy. Uh, again, I don't really. It's hard to count that as like a trilogy, even though it technically is a Wolverine trilogy. But they all just feel like very one-off movies, which is cool. That's just the weird thing of the Fox universe is like the continuity is so weird, but it's cool that they're able to keep like the actors like keep like Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart around for a while. Because I feel like Ian McKellen's going to be in Deadpool 3, which I can't wait for. Um, of course, Patrick Stewart's one. He came back as Charles Xavier in Doctor Strange, but he's also in Logan. And then Hugh Jackman's in like all these movies, which is sick. Let's see. So Deadpool. So you like Deadpool movies the best? It's cool. I mean, I love Deadpool. I think Deadpool is so much fun. Let's see. Brian Cox. I don't know who Brian Cox is, but I mean, hey, Days of Future Past is again. I think it's one of the best comic book movies out there. It's one of those that like you don't have to watch First Class or any of the old movies. It's just like a fun like ensemble of like bringing these worlds together just to make one awesome story. I think I'm trying to remember how that movie ends. Oh, it just ends with like, oh, things are good in the in Logan's universe now. Oh, Striker. You're yeah, I got you. Yeah. Okay, that's gotcha. Yeah, I like how Stryker is in this First Class trilogy as well a little bit. He's not really a huge role, but it sets up like how he looks at Wolverine healing and whatnot. It's like, ooh, we're gonna keep an eye on this guy for Weapon X program. Um, but yeah, Days of Future Past, I do think is ultimately the best one. Like I love having Peter Dinklage as like the villain of it all. It's nice to see him in that kind of role. He's a very charismatic guy, so it's like it's cool to see him in like he hates mutants type of thing. Um, I think this is where I think I really like Jennifer Lawrence in Days of Future Past. I don't think I loved her as much in First Class. First Class, I think, is a movie that's definitely like it's a really good story and everything, but I think that movie, I think that if they didn't cast Magneto or Professor X the way they did, I don't think it would be as good as a movie. Same with Days of Future Past, of course. Um, but I think Futures Past just still has like a better overall story where I think it still could have landed. Uh, but First Class is still sick. It's like to see like, oh, these are the first X Men come together. Like you have Beast, you have Charles, you have Eric, you have Mystique. Uh, it's just cool to see, and it ends so perfectly where you see Magneto in his true costume. I wish that transferred over to Days of Futures Past because I remember that suit looking fucking tough. But I still think his suit in Days of Futures Past is awesome too. That's another thing. I think they did a really good job with just costumes in this trilogy compared to the original trilogy, where I think just the costumes are pretty bland. Um, but it's hard to just keep going on and on about the acting. But I think the acting is what makes this trilogy the best. Like again, Michael Fassbender, he just murdered as Eric. Like like you really get more of that like, oh, these guys are best friends, but they're also each other's worst enemies at the same time. Like that's such an awesome dynamic. That's why I personally like Charles and Magneto the best in terms of X-Men. Magneto is my favorite villain of all time, I think. He's up there. He's my favorite super villain out there. It's like him and of course Joker are like top of my list. But I just like how he's not wrong. He's just an extremist the whole time. That's because of how he grows up. Like that just shows how big of a role your development can have for your life. You can be one of the most powerful beings out there, and you can still have the right ideas, but go about it the wrong way, and that's what can make you the villain. And that's what happens to Magneto because he's not a bad guy. He's not. He just goes to the extreme because he just sees it as these people hate us because he sees mutant haters kind of like the Nazis because they're like they singled out a specific population. And that's what is happening during his timeline of being in the mutants or being a mutant, and everyone's just after them. And that's what happens in Days of Futures Past, right? Where they're even making these big old robots to hunt and murder these mutants, and that's why you get that reality of Days of Futures Past, where there's barely any mutants left because they're all getting killed off. So it's just interesting but that's where, of course, in that timeline, Magneto understands that we have to work together to make this happen. That's what I like about also most. It's like, yeah, Magneto dying, he's still talking to Charles, be like, why do we waste all those years? Or basically, is what he's saying, and it's like, you're my brother, basically. Like that, like that's how they both feel towards each other, but they keep fighting because Charles just believes in unity, where uh, where Eric is definitely more on the side of, hey, they don't like us, so I'm not going to like them, and we are obviously way more powerful than they are. So why can't we be the next step in the evolution of mankind? You know, so it's interesting. But Charles, of course, just wants to be the hero. He's like, we have these gifts. Let's show them that we are here to help. So yeah, I guess ultimately I'll just rank these movies specifically. Of course, Dark Phoenix is at the absolute bottom of the barrel of my list. I don't even like talking about because I've seen it one time and I don't care to ever watch it again because one, I think Jessica Chastain could have been a far more superior villain than we got. It just rehashes a bunch of like old ideas that didn't work before, like in Last Stand, for example. Like it sucks that they have yet to master the Dark Phoenix saga. I think I think Marvel will eventually get be able to handle that right because I think after the multiverse saga, I think we're gonna get into the mutant saga where of course Wanda's gonna play a big role in that. Uh, Jean's gonna play a huge role in that, and I'm just excited. I think that's the part of the MCU I'm really looking forward to. The multiverse saga, of course, is gonna be sick, seeing like all these actors from this time be with like like Robert Downey Jr. or Chris Evans, and then like Tom Holland Spider Man. Like that'd be cool. Um, but Dark Phoenix eats at the bottom of the barrel. It sucks. That's all I can really say about it. Also, whoever else is in here, say hey. But we're probably about to end it up here pretty soon. Got to make dinner. But yeah, it's just if I'm gonna give it anything, any type of praise, it's like of course McAvoy and Fassbender carry. But that's the only reason that movie becomes slightly enjoyable. But like again, it's just not a very enjoyable movie. There's only two movies. Yeah, you haven't seen Dark Phoenix. I just remember watching it because it was on like Max or something at one point. I don't remember what it was on, but I was like, oh, okay, I'll finally give it a watch. It was a movie I just didn't see in theaters. Um, but I already know that probably would have been a movie I walked out of. There's only been one movie I've ever like truly wanted to walk out of in my life, and that was Justice League, the Justice League that came out in 2017. I stayed through the whole thing because I'm like, all right, I paid for it, but I was just like, oh, this sucks. Especially when Batman vs Superman is one of my favorite movies of all time. Uh, if you don't agree with that, that's fine. I just think it's a masterpiece of a movie. I can't wait to eventually get my buddy Brad on here when we discuss the Zack Snyder movies, and then we'll talk about uh, what has come after the Zack Snyder movies. I think it'll put things in perspective because we really know what we're talking about when it comes to this stuff. Um, but anyway, Apocalypse is my third favorite. I'm not gonna say it's my second least favorite because I do enjoy it. I enjoy Apocalypse. I think Apocalypse is just underrated. I think there's definitely problems with Apocalypse. Like again, like Oscar Isaac just doesn't look that menacing. But of course, getting Archangel is sick. It's cool to have Storm be a horseman, Magneto be a horseman. It's just cool. Psylocke is dope in it too. Uh, of course, the Evan Peters Quicksilver scene with "Sweet Dreams Are Made of These." Masterful sequence. I think it's a lot of fun. Uh, yeah, I think it's a good movie. I just think they kind of like the ending just feels rushed and like it's just the pacing just starts to get off. It just feels off in the third act. But overall, I think it's good. Let's see. Really, that's funny. Do you not like Harry Potter? Uh, Interesting. I mean, hey man, yeah, that's cool though. Just to see a trailer, that's interesting. You can't imagine that nowadays with YouTube, right? But that's a different time to be alive. I've never done that in my life, um, but I think I'm that Harry Potter generation. You know, like I love the Harry Potter movies. Big fan because they came out as I was growing up. You know, where of course the prequel movies were too, and I love me the Star Wars prequel trilogy. Um, anyway, Apocalypse. I just think it's underrated. Let's see, like three, love four, hated five, and haven't seen any of the others. Oh, interesting. I think three is the best. I don't know. Those are probably three of my favorite Harry Potter movies you just listed. Like three, four, and five are good, but I don't know. I just love the Harry Potter movies. I think you'd really like the last three. I think they're all just much darker. And yeah, you didn't like five though. I think five is actually one of the best like transitions from book to film out of all the movies. Where it's like it's the shortest movie based on the longest book, but I think they adapted it the best out of any of the movies, which is kind of wild. Um, hey, what's up, guys? Whoever else just joined? We now have three people in here. Wild. But say hey in the chat. We're talking the X Men First Class trilogy. Right as right now, I'm just ranking them where I have Dark Phoenix last, Apocalypse next, but I still very much so enjoy it. Huh. Yeah, it's just an interesting time, and like with YouTube and everything, where you have to go to the theater to make sure you can see a trailer, or sometimes with the Super Bowl. Yeah, that's a good point. And then of course, I remember Channel E. Uh, which was basically it was just an entertainment channel. But yeah, it's just different. I just like the idea that at any time I have Twitter and it'll just like be like, oh, new trailer just dropped. Yesterday they literally had a trailer for the trailer for Aquaman 2, which I think looks pretty good actually. Um, I think that's gonna feel like a very standalone type of movie where it's gonna be like a good Aquaman movie, just like how I feel like the original Aquaman is. but it won't feel like The Flash, where it's like they're trying to connect a lot of things, and it's just a weird multiversal type of film. Where Aquaman 2 will just be like sick. You might have Batman in it, maybe. That's it. Um, but anyway, so First Class is my second favorite. I think it's just a really fun movie. Fun. Um, it's just good. It's just good. I think Kevin Bacon's a remarkable villain. One of the craziest scenes in that movie is when Eric uses the coin that he had from the Holocaust, and it just goes right through Kevin Bacon's head. I'm like, that is a gruesome death. Like, that's a crazy death. I just remember when that was happening, Charles is kind of feeling that at the same time, and it's like, whoa. Like, and that's where Eric officially turns. Like, he is not a good guy anymore, even though he is. But he's a very complicated and a conflicted human being. Um, and I just love that scene. So First Class is awesome. You get a great cast, you get great side characters, and you get to see the first X-Men form to stop the Cuban Missile Crisis, which is cool. That's what I do like about this trilogy as well. It takes like big events of some sort happening. Like you have like again, you have like Vietnam going on during Days of Futures Past or whatever, which is cool. Um, yeah. And of course, Days of Future Past is my obvious favorite if you've been watching the stream the whole time. Again, it's just I like getting Hugh Jackman being a main character in these movies, like truly the main character, and that's how you feel in this movie. Yet you still have the other X-Men characters in it. So that to me just makes it more fun. You have the unbelievable Quicksilver scene in this one. Just that the whole dynamic between Wolverine, Charles, and Eric is just a lot of fun to watch on screen. And yeah, but all right, guys, I think that might do it. But yeah, Days of Future Past is just ultimately my favorite. But yeah, guys, make sure to leave some comments. Let me know your guys' favorite, and if you want to rank them, go for it. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed. If you came here late, sorry, but I gotta go make some din. But hey, it'll go right on YouTube, and you can check out the whole thing right after. But all right, guys, make sure to check us out every Monday. Just was able to do it a little earlier today. I had a little situation with my car keys I had to figure out, so we were able to do it earlier. I took a personal day at work, so I'm like, whatever. I'll do this a little earlier for you guys. Why not? And yeah, but we're usually gonna try to do this around 6 every Monday. But yeah, we're each Monday we're just gonna go over different superhero films, trilogies and all. Where eventually I think I'm gonna go deeper into just like a singular movie. Like of course when Iron Man is out there and whatnot. Or yeah, Iron Man will be like one where I probably talk the whole time about. But I might just go full Iron Man trilogy. But we'll see because or I'll just go over like each phase of Marvel so far and have like very long streams on it, and then maybe just go individual film, like review style, you know. But you guys just let me know what you want down below in the comments. Make sure to like and share it with your friends, guys. But love y'all. I'll see y'all very soon. Bye bye.